The secret to 10x growth isn't strategy. It is culture. Your culture will either multiply your results or magnify your stress. Smart companies have strategy, solid finances, and the right technology. But that's not enough to scale. To grow effortlessly, your culture must be healthy, low politics, high morale, aligned values, and strong teamwork. We use proven, science-based tools to measure culture, energy, and fit, so you can fix what matters and grow faster. If you know where your culture stands, you can scale with clarity, energy, and purpose. Scan the QR code and do the 3-minute company culture check now.
Greetings everybody, great to be here. Another Thursday morning, and today we've got a really special guest. One of our co-hosts will be presenting, Wilhelm Lombard. Wilhelm has been a long-standing member of the Vision 2025 program, and so Glenn actually started the program in 2023, so it's been a long journey together. And then Russell joined us and Mana joined us. So unfortunately, Mana cannot join us today, but we're going to be hearing from Glenn and from Wilhelm. Sorry, so he's going to be telling us a little bit about what he does, and it's something really important. And I think for any company, it's important to hear what Wilhelm has to say today. But before we do that, let's go around the room and just ask our other co-hosts just to introduce themselves. Let's start with Russell. Russell, please introduce yourself.
Hi, yes, my company is Orpspec. Russell John Fagan is the name. We specialize in business consulting, reputation management, and I think the feather in our cap that we really are proud of is our sales masterclass, where we train people salespeople to sell. I'm of the opposite opinion that salespeople aren't born. I think salespeople can be molded into salespeople. It just takes good communication, good listening skills, and understanding the market, your client, and your product. And the psychology of sales is very important, so that's where I specialize in. I'm looking forward to hearing Wilhelm's. I know Wilhelm well, I would believe, not just because of co-hosting, but we used to frequent the same business club at a stage. And yeah, looking forward to listening to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Russell. Russell will actually be our speaker next week, and he's going to be giving some amazing tips on sales. So I'm really looking forward to that. Thanks, Russell. Let's go to Glenn. Glenn, please introduce yourself.
Thanks so much, David. Glad to be on board again this week. I was getting a bit concerned because I didn't have sound this morning on my laptop, but we managed to get it sorted in time. So, yeah, the gimmicks in terms of laptops and things. Anyway, Glenn Jones, mentors coaching. I do life and business coaching. I also do counseling mentoring, and looking so forward to what Wilhelm has to say this morning. I love to call myself your personal locksmith, simply because I love to unlock the potential inside of people and help them step into destiny. And that's pretty much me. All about purpose. Looking forward to what you have to say, Wilhelm. Go for it. Enjoy.
Thank you, Glenn. A little bit about myself before we go to Wilhelm. I'm a bit architect, but one of the other things I do is I give you a voice, and I give you a voice through a number of different ways. One, through this platform, Vision 2025. Next year is going to be Vision 2026, so look out for that. And we're going to be doing a little bit of marketing around that. And then also I did One eSIM Africa. We've got actually a very special guest coming on Wednesday the 19th, who's going to be talking about tourism. And there's a big event happening in Swani in January, and we're going to be talking about that. So please come and join us on that day. It's a Wednesday at 10 o'clock in the morning. A little bit different from the Thursday, but it's an additional event. And then I'm also part of the One eSIM Africa that gives you global connectivity. So that's something that's really great. Right, let's go to Wilhelm. Wilhelm, I believe you've got a fantastic presentation to show us today, and I really like to video that you gave us this morning with the room of the car and getting going. And I think that's representing the teams, getting your team to get going and actually doing your 10x growth. So, Wilhelm, please, I'm going to give the mic to you, and please take it away and tell us all about, that 10x is not about strategy, it's about something different. Tell us what that is. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, David, and the rest of the team. It's great to be here again. Yeah, just for the startup, I help leaders and teams unlock their full potential by improving leadership quality, mastering stress, and building trust-driven high-performance cultures using brain dominance, communication styles, and team player assessment tools. I show businesses how to align strengths and prevent burnout, and 10x performance. So that's what I do. And let's go to the slideshow. The secret to 10x growth isn't strategy, it's culture. Your team's energy, trust, and alignment determine whether you'll scale with ease or struggle with stress. So the question is, does your team have what it takes? So let's look at some business owners' frustrations. And that's the next slide. That's right. Is your team driving growth or quietly draining profits? Could burnout be stealing 20% of your team's productivity? Are you scaling your business or just scaling your stress? Now, let's change this to a more positive side. What would it mean if your team delivered 10x growth with half the stress? Next slide, man. With half the stress. Imagine saving millions by hiring the right people the first time. And how much more profits could you unlock with a fully energized team? So 23 years ago, while completing my master's in leadership, I started researching burnout. That's the next slide, David. I found that the real cause of burnout isn't workload, it's misalignment. I've spent the last 2 decades helping companies, energizing teams, fix culture leaks, and scale with less stress. I show business owners how to prevent burnout culture before it's killing growth. The thing is, healthy culture before scaling isn't a luxury, it's a multiplier. After my talk, I'll share a free checklist to determine if your culture is ready to scale. So, here are 8 signs your team is ready to 10x growth. When culture, energy, and strategy align perfectly, growth doesn't feel like a struggle, it feels effortless. So let's discover the powerful indicators that separate scaling teams from stalling ones. The first one, high alignment, one vision, one direction. Everyone should understand why the company exists and where it's going. The vision, values, and goals should be crystal clear to everybody and should be lived daily. And that's important. They must live it daily. Team members should see how their roles directly contribute to growth. The result then will be energy flows in one direction, no drag, no confusion, no politics. The second one, the right people in the right roles. Each person should work from their zone of genius, where they use the least energy for the biggest results. We achieve this through our Crack Your Brain Code quiz, where we reveal more than 20 strengths and weaknesses of all team players. This balance weaknesses by complementary strengths. The role clarity removes overlap, frustration, and burnout. So the result will be more productivity, and productivity feels effortless because talent fits the task. Number 3, High trust and psychological safety. When team members should feel safe to speak up, share ideas, and admit mistakes without fear. Leadership builds trust through transparency and follow through. There's respect even when there's disagreement, and the result, innovation flows and teams adapt faster to change. Our team player certification quiz identifies identify team players to fit into the team, and where they feel they need some team player skills, we know exactly where to upskill them. This is a handy tool to determine if a person will fit into a team before you just hire them based on, the AI match CVs. So the next step is strong communication flow. Messages should move fast and clearly through all levels. There must be clear feedback loops so that everyone knows what's working and what's not working. A 10x team has no gossip, guessing, or hidden agendas. The result? Fewer misunderstanding, faster execution, and stronger teamwork. And that's what you want. Step number 5, or the next one, we want resilient energy and emotional intelligence. People should not just manage stress well, but master it to recover quickly from setbacks. The culture must support mental, emotional, and physical well-being. Leaders should be able to model calm confidence under pressure. The result, sustainable energy fuels performance with no burnout cycles. Then number 6, ownership and accountability. For a 10x ready company, everyone owns results, not just tasks. People don't wait for the instructions, they lead from where they are. And they have to keep one another accountable to keep standards high. The result, momentum builds naturally and no micromanagement is needed. Number 7, continuous improvement and learning. A 10x ready team reward curiosity and innovation. In fact, they thrive on it. Mistakes become learning opportunities and there are no blaming sessions. Teams regularly reflect, refine, and upgrade their performance. The result, growth compounds. What worked yesterday gets 10% better tomorrow. And then values, number 8. Values-driven culture. Core values guide behavior, decisions, and relationships. Recognition aligns with those values, not just metrics. The culture attracts like-minded high performance. And the results then, less friction, more flow, and long-term loyalty. In short, a 10x ready team is energized, aligned, and emotionally intelligent. They work with each other, not around each other. And that's what makes growth feel effortless and non-exhausting. So what's the next steps? Let's build companies that scale with energy, not exhaustion. I have a limited offer for the first 10 companies. If you would like to know if your company culture is ready to scale, please feel free, scan the QR code and do the quick quiz, or you can comment in the comments, just put scale and I'll send you a link personally. David, thank you. That is actually my story.
Well, Wilhelm, thank you very much. I want to say very, very, very good steps. For me, when I was working for Sun International, one of the things that we found that was so important, Sun International at the time, and I'm talking about 2000s, They had acquired a number of casino licenses, and now they had to, build the casinos and then actually start operating them. And they did this in a number of different provinces. And for certain reasons, they decided to outsource all the service providers. And in outsourcing them, they would get, like, for example, a Prestige cleaning, for example, Fidelity security, and so on. And all these different companies, from basically food and beverage all the way through to hygiene. And the biggest thing that they had was, because Sun International had an ethos and a certain number of values, etc., was how to actually get all these different companies, or the individuals from these companies all working at these different resorts, to work together and underneath the brand of Sun International. And I remember working with these teams, and we came up with some solutions. But I think, had we known these steps that you've done now, it would have been a much easier operation to actually get them all to align. So I really thank you for that, Wilhelm. It's really, very insightful. But I'm going to ask Russell to give his thoughts and feedback. Russell?
Thank you, David. Thank you, Wilhelm. I think the thing that stands out the most for me is the strong communication. When I did my business degree, it was not like a doctorate. We had to do a total study of it, but we were asked to do what they labeled as a special project, and find flaws within failing companies, and what we as future business leaders would change in it. The funny thing is, of the 16 subjects I had, the one that I got my cum on was communication. And I then obviously went and looked at, because I was so strong with the communication subject, I went and looked at or it came up that communication was one of the failing elements within corporates. The interesting thing was, it was not communication from top down, because top-down communication flows. It's the boss that says, and the employer says, yes, sir. Where companies failed within the first 5 years to 7 years was with communication bottom up. And that was very interesting, because what would happen is, let's draw a scenario, is that you've got a retail store, the clients come in and the clients moan because the stock is not the right sizes, let's say clothing, or they're out of stock again on a product that they've advertised. And who does the client moan with? He moans with the cashier. He moans with the staff that are in the shop, and it's those guys that get the brunt of your negative attitude. And when these guys started saying, listen to the next level of management or senior management, we've got a problem, our clients are complaining about this, they were shunned. And they were saying, well, we run the company, we know better than you. And what happens is you start losing clients. So that was a very interesting case study. And I did that religiously for like about 3 weeks. I went and studied different case studies, different companies, alternatives and so forth, and different models of communication that allows. And then I came across, after 9/11, obviously the aviation industry it just skydived all the way down. Multiple airliners ran into debt review. Multiple airlines, especially the smaller ones, closed. Yet there was an airline in South Africa, and I can't remember all the things. This was quite a while ago that I did the study. And I think, if I remember right, it was Kulula. I'm not sure, but don't hold me to it. What their management and their CEO was very young. I think he was like in his 36 or something like that. It was a very young leader. And what they did was they did what they called it's not probably most people know about it. They had a box outside an HR department where you could come and you could put an idea in on how to save costs, because their thought was, we're not going to get rid of people, we're going to try and save costs on other levels. And what they did, it was brilliant, is once a quarter there was a panel, and it wasn't senior management, it was middle management, maybe one senior management, but a lot of diverse people in the company, would sit down and they'll have a day or two where they go through all of these suggestions. They then pick the correct or the suggestion that made the most sense for them, and then they allocated a budget to it. But what they did was they said that person that came with the idea took accountability of the project and the spend of the money. And one of the things that they did was, if you go back, and those guys that traveled a lot before that time period, the headrest had a cloth, which was either a material of some sort. So when the plane lands, the team come in, they zip this off because it was Velcro. They throw it in a bag, they're going to have it dry cleaned, and they put on the next ones. Okay. And the guy that was actually in control of packaging the stuff for the dry cleaners and then bringing it back and distributing it to the different airports came up with a material. I can't remember the history of how he came up, but a recyclable material that was less expensive to manufacture, and you didn't have to go and do the whole cleaning process of putting it through. And that to me is what Wilhelm's talking about here. You've got the right person in the right place. It's someone that can think on his feet. He's looking at this business and saying, well, wait a minute, can we save this, or can we do it more effectively? It's not always about cost saving. It's also about effective. Right person, right place. The alignment of that person is obviously in line with what the outcome of the company is. They want to not cut jobs. They want to cut costs so that the airline can survive. The end result is with this project that they did, where they utilized, and it was not just this one idea, there was multiple ideas. It was the only airline in the world that showed a growth after the 2-year period of 9/11. Now, I can't remember all the stats. Maybe someone that's listening to me will have more info. But it was a good case study. And as you were speaking, this is what came up, the ownership and accountability, communication, high trust, to be able to say, well, maybe this is not such a good idea, but I'm going to trust the system, put this idea in. A lot of people have these brilliant ideas, but because they're so low in the food chain, they don't even speak up. Yet those ideas are actually the ones that can make a great difference. Value-driven culture falls in alignment with that case study. Ownership, accountability, and obviously the spirit. I think the spirit of continuous growth is also a spirit of not just me growing, but me growing with a company. And I think you've touched that, and the case study I did highlights these points actually. So yeah, thanks. That was a lot, but you guys know I speak a lot, so I communicate. So thanks, David.
Thanks, Vanessa. I think you shared some really very interesting points there. And the person who came up with the idea of replacing not doing the dry cleaning or washing of those headrests covers, but actually coming up with another solution. That's amazing, and that for him to be able to just do that, there needs to be a fantastic culture within the business.
I think good culture when they say, it was your idea, so let's entrust you with it. Here's the budget. We're going to help you as management, obviously, not just leave you on an island. I think that's a good culture for a business to have, where that is really taking your human equity, taking your capital investment in your people to a next level. And I think that's where a lot of companies don't do, because there are islands, there are silos. They, think that because I'm the boss or because I'm the owner, I know everything. No, you don't. Some of your staff know more than you do because they work every single day in the trenches. There's nothing better than experience. So I think that's a brilliant lesson for our small business owners and medium business owners, as well as corporates, to look at that idea.
Yeah, and I think as a leader, from my experience as I've got older, it's the leader being able to let go, and actually understanding, the younger generation have fantastic ideas, and actually giving them that responsibility rather than just trying to keep control around everything. So fantastic. Thanks for sharing. Let's go to Glenn. Glenn.
Thanks, David. Appreciate that, and thank you, Wilhelm. Very interesting. I love these points. The example that Russell gave is actually so brilliant, and it also explains what I want to discuss now as well. Because for me, there's a theme that runs through all these points, and that is simply leadership. The word leadership. And John Maxwell always talks about the concept of everything rises and falls on leadership. And so often, the leaders in the company, the CEO, the managers, they're always pointing fingers at their staff members and saying, you're not doing this, you're not doing this. But ultimately, it's up to the leader to change things. communication. And so another aspect that came out very strongly was the word for me, empowerment, to actually empower your people. I'm obviously all about purpose and discovering purpose and bringing out the potential inside of people. And by doing exactly what this chap did in that airline, and allowing him to be able to do that and stepping into the authority and accountability situation, they're empowering him to be able to do that. And it's such an important aspect. When people actually have that ability and that option to do that, it just changes your whole perspective about the job. It's not just a job then. It's something meaningful. And it makes such a massive difference. And I think if leaders in companies would just begin to understand this concept and start applying these principles, exactly what Wilhelm's explained, you're going to see such a massive change, really. I'm not very much into employer-employee. I think I've explained this before. The word employee means to scheme or hold fast, onder druk. But there's such an incredible opportunity for people in management, in leadership, to be able to empower people, empower their staff, and bring them to the point to scale their business to such an extent. It is absolutely phenomenal. And I get excited about these things. So I think before I continue, I'm going to stop right there because otherwise I'll be going on for the next half an hour. But Wilhelm, thank you very much. Brilliant aspects, brilliant points. And thank you, Russell, for the example. Really good. Really great indeed. Awesome. Thanks, David.
Thank you, Glenn. Yeah, one of the things that I'd like to share from my side, and we were talking about the Sun International problem that they had. So one of the things they did, they implemented a thing called pay for performance, and it was basically also a team building system. And what happened was we got, at the time, and I was involved with that, we got all the different service providers to come along and as a group. So, the security were there, the cleaning were there, health and hygiene was there, the waiters were there, the bartenders were there, etc. And we, through a process of actually giving them the client experience, now obviously this was a hospitality, giving them a client experience and actually taking them through that client experience and getting them to understand, how important their jobs were to actually the end result of getting that client to have a enjoyable, incredible stay wherever, at the hotel or at the casino at the time, or at one of the restaurant facilities, or one of the entertainment facilities, and actually getting them to understand that process actually really helped them to work as a team. And when we started the program, we identified a number of KPIs, and we measured them for a little while just to see where we are with regard to those KPIs without involving them at all. It was just a straight measurement. And we identified that they were achieving about 50% of those KPIs. So in other words, their scoring was about 50%, which was quite low. We then implemented the pay for performance system, and afterwards we were achieving between 95 and 100% every single month. And it was actually incredible. And not only was the actual numbers of the actual the turnover and the ROI of the casino had increased dramatically, but it became like the place of choice to go to because of the experience the customers were experiencing, because of this whole thing that we actually put in and implemented. It was absolutely amazing. It was also another thing that we did was we combined the ethos of Sun International and what they were trying to do. I'm not trying to promote Sun International here, by the way. I'm just saying what we did. And we got everyone to understand that was it. So they were actually became part of the Sun International family, even though they were still working for Prestige or Fidelity or whoever they were working for. So it was actually an incredible program. And I think that goes around very much what you were talking about, Wilhelm. Wilhelm, maybe you can share a little bit about, one of the companies where you've implemented your system and talk about it and to just tell us where it was and where it came to. Over to you, Wilhelm.
Thank you very much, David. Yes, I what I learned the last couple of months now. I did some work with Mikado, the guy that talked last week on the show, or the previous week. Now, talking about communication, Russell talked about communication, and I find that's a big problem. You know, in South Africa, or yeah, maybe in Africa, I don't know, but there's a culture of when you send a message, people say yes. Can you do this? Or do you understand? I always say the inside out of communication is, in the first place, when I'm the sender, I must make sure that you, the receiver, will understand, and make sure you understand. Not ask you, do you understand? Because people say yes. You know, in some cultures, it's disrespectful to say no, so you just say yes. But then you should ask, as the sender, you should ask, tell me, how are you going to do that? And then that person will respond and say, I will do it this way. I always take the example, my gardener, when I tell my gardener to water the flowers and to take out the weed, and I get back home and he took out the flowers and watered the weed, then it's not a stupid gardener, it's me, because I didn't communicate correctly. I should have asked him, what are you going to do? And then he will tell me, well, I will take out the flowers, water the weed. Then I say, no, that's not what I want you to do. Let me show you. And I show him. And then I should ask again, how are you going to do that? Not, do you understand? Because they will always say yes. You know, they feel, I should understand, otherwise I'm stupid. They say yes. And I find, okay, and then on the other side, the receiver of communication must always make sure that you understand correctly. So you should say, let me just make sure. So you want me to take out the flowers and water the weed? Then I should say, the sender, no, that's not what I want you to do. And you correct that thing. Now, it takes a bit of time, but then communication is really happening because you understand now exactly what's going on. And I find that that's the big problem, that people communicate and they just think, well, you understand. You know, I always use this, I don't know if you know that story of this male chauvinist was driving the sports car, and when he was coming around the corner, there was this lady shouting at him, "Yo, a pig!" She shouted, "Pig!" And he said, "Yo, cow!" And then bump into the pig, you know, because there was a pig in the road. And it's all about our different perspectives as well. People must understand, from what perspective do you communicate? And then I don't even talk about from what emotion do you communicate? Maybe you communicate from out of a frustration emotion or whatever that might be. But it is so important to understand those things when it comes to communication. And I find that that's a big problem. Coming back to the company culture, the one thing that I try to tell people is to create a positive, energetic work environment. That's the key. You must create a positive, energetic work environment. And that's the leaders. The leaders must start there. And it starts with trust. But who's the leader? You are the leader. It doesn't matter where you are in this chain. It's not always the CEO, but wherever you are, if you are the Teagle, you must create a positive, energetic work environment there where you are. The moment when everybody do that, and it's all built on trust, it's so important. But the moment when you do that, then things start to change, because that's the key. And how do you do that? You do it with a value system, the right value system as well. The moment when you value system, you know, most companies, I find that most companies have their values on the wall there at reception. And when you ask them, what's your values? They try to see what's going on that wall. You should live values. It should be like a jacket that you wear. That's your values. And whatever you do, when you hire people, when you fire people, when you do whatever you do it according to what the value system is, because then you got legitimate grounds to fire or hire. And that's so important. And that's what I try to do, is to really help people to before even you hire a person, that they will fit into the value system. It's through different questionnaires and things that we do it, but that way you get the right fit. You energize people, as you've mentioned, you energize people with their special geniuses to focus on certain specific things. And the moment when a person know and the rest of the team know what your genius is, then they allow you to talk on that thing, because you talk with authority. And then you can talk with authority. It gives you self-confidence and all those things. Well, I must stop, because I also can talk a lot, and I must actually go for another appointment. But yes, it's incredible stuff. And the moment if people can make or break it. You can have all the systems in place, but if people make or break it, and if you are not ready with your team, if your team is not ready to scale, it will only stress you out. That's all. It will drain a lot of energy. Thank you.
You're right. You're totally right there. I see Dr. Carroll's just put a message up. Good day. What you explaining, Mr. Lombard, works well also when you communicate using a score of communication. On a scale of 1 to 10, how aligned we are. Thanks for these insights. Oh, wonderful. Thank you very much, Dr. Carroll. And also thank you to Rachel. Thank you, Rachel. Yes, the suggestion box from Russell was fantastic. Thanks for that. Thanks for commenting. One of the things I want to ask you, Wilhelm, you mentioned, the company that you've been working with recently, that when you went in, there was a different culture, and now there's a change. Can you just maybe describe that and just talk about that journey?
At first, there was a lot of politics. And people didn't follow the directives. Leadership was not what it should be. Leadership was all about the wrong motive. People want to be on this pedestal. I'm the leader now, and they try to push the other people down as much as possible. Now things change, but I can tell you it's not an easy task. I'm working with these guys for over a year, and you need to work on them over and over. I started actually with them. I got this thing, doing the right things right. And it's all about attitude change and basic things like the communication, all those things. So I work through the whole company, and these are factory workers. So I worked through the whole company with those things. At the beginning, it was very tough. The people look at me as if the cat was carrying me in there, and so on. But now it changed. You need to build that report. And remember, as I said, there was a lot of politics, and after COVID and all those things, very tough times. Now it changes. Then I also did some vision alignment with them. I'm busy with value alignment now, because values are the key aspect, and it takes a lot of time. And you see, and the problem now was at the end, I worked with the people, but the leaders are the problem. Leaders don't do what they should do. They are the problem. They want their people to follow them, but they don't lead by example. So now it's a tough job to work with the leaders and to equip the leaders to lead by example, to do the things and to communicate the right way down to the others, because there was a lot of blaming in this company. It's always pointing the fingers to the other people, and that's why we are missing deadlines because of them and this and that and whatever. And that's a very, very bad company culture. So then I decided, listen, let's do with the leaders they must do the company culture check. They must do it, And I find that top management think it was okay. But the moment when the other people, the lower management levels, start to really do that with my questionnaires and all those things, then it reveals quite a lot of other stuff that top management wasn't really aware. They think it was okay. That's why I usually say, I don't want the CEO to complete my quiz, because they will say, yeah, it's fine, but they are detached from what's really going on. They don't think even there's people that maybe steal. But yeah, a little bit lower down the line, those people know, oh, there's cheating and stealing here. And the moment when you realize those things and you pull it together, you realize, my word, that's why we battle to or we miss deadlines or whatever that might be. Whatever the case might be, that's the reason. Why is there distrust or bad communication? Because people don't trust, and so on and so on. So it's not an easy task. It takes maybe a year, 2 years to get the company really ready. Now, when they're ready, when their culture is okay, then they can scale, because then they will row together as a team in the right direction, and they will have great energy, and they will move. It will actually be effortless in a sense if the culture is okay.
Sure. Well, I think from the presentation we had last week, I think you really have achieved that. I mean, the company's done amazing things. If you go back and listen to what was spoken about, from pre-COVID, COVID, and now, it's a totally different company. And from what I understand, they really are making a profit. So, it works, and that's the thing. I'm just going to go around the room. I see our time is running out. Let's just talk about takeaways and what we can apply. I'm going to start with Glenn or Russell. Let's start with Russell. Russell, what is your big takeaway, and what are you going to apply from what Wilhelm spoken about?
I think a lot of it is about team. And I do know that within the environment I walk, a lot of the businesses that I deal with is single-owned businesses, so they don't have a team. But that should not stop you from having the same direction, the same values, the same ethos that you would have if you've got a corporate environment or a larger team. In sales, we talk about fake it till you make it. It is a game where and that's where the oversell, under-deliver comes from, because, you're faking more than what you can actually give. But in this context, I think it's important, don't have a small mindset, have a corporate mindset, like Wilhelm was talking about there. And it changes everything. Attitude is the important thing, and the love for what you're doing. I think if you don't love your business, you don't love your product, don't sell. Don't sell it. Don't be in business. Go and work for someone else. And Wilhelm always talks about passion, and that's what it comes down to. So that's my takeaway. I think it's teamwork, even though you might not have a team. Is work as though you've got a team.
I love that. Thanks, Russell. Glenn, what's your big takeaway, and how are you going to apply it?
Thanks, David. I just wanted to add something to what Russell was saying. Interesting enough, Russell, I see it from a slightly different perspective in terms of the team as a one-man show. Effectively, you still actually have a team. It's your spouse, your children, your clients, your service providers, etc. And so one has to actually consider that as your team then. It's quite important in terms of applying all those principles throughout with all those people. It actually really works well. And if you start looking at it from that perspective, just it changes things. Different perspective. Absolutely. I just thought I'd touch on that as well, but really great points. Once again, for me, leadership, I just think of Stephen Covey, and we've been talking communication all the time, such an important aspect. I so agree with that. And I always use that particular one of the habits, the 7 habits of highly effective people, and that is seek first to understand, then be understood. And that's exactly what Wilhelm was explaining. Yeah, I can't stress the importance of that. The amount of times that things have been said and it's miscommunicated, and it's caused such incredible fights and arguments between people and destroyed companies as a result of it. It blows my mind. and it's such an important aspect. So yeah, I think these points are so important, and I think it's something that one has to actually. It's a never-ending process. It's a learning process, and you're going to continue to learn. You're going to continue to grow. It's not something that you're just going to implement once and just walk away. It's such an important thing that we need to do and focus on it and continue to grow in it. So thank you very much, Wilhelm and Russell and David. A great conversation today. Really important aspects. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Glenn. Wilhelm, last word from your side.
Yeah, thank you, David. I think it's important, yes. You don't have to be a corporate, only a small team, 1, 2, 3 people even. If you start well, if you get your culture right from the start, ready to go, it will just be easier for you if you grow. Otherwise, growth can be very, very stressful, and it can drain more energy, and it's actually bad for your own health at the end of the day. And that's why lots of companies not doing the right things right then end up in disaster. But thank you very much for this great opportunity.
Thank you, Wilhelm. So thank you everybody for being here, especially those who are listening in, and I hope there's some great takeaways. Wilhelm shared some real gems, about getting your team to work together. And actually, as he says, it's not about strategy, it's about the culture. And if you've got the culture right, and Russell also spoke about that with that employer, from the airports company, just showing how things can change. And I'm sure there was a big saving there. I know, for example, there's another story with an airline company where they wanted to save on budget, and they said in first class, instead of giving them, I think it was 3 olives on a salad, they'll give them 2 olives. And they saved a lot of money by just doing that. So there are a number of ideas there, and accept those in your team and give them the power to think for themselves and to come up with ideas and to share them. I love that idea. But most importantly, I think a lot of us are small businesses, and consider those around you as part of your team. Your accountant, for example, they're part of your team, even though they don't work with you. But they do work with you. They're just not your employee. You're not the employer, but you do work for them, and they work for you, and they make sure that you pay your tax on time and all those things. So all those people that actually serve you, they're part of your team. So create good relationships with them, and really see them as part of their team. So thanks very much, Wilhelm, for that. We'll be back next week. Russell will be talking a little bit about sales. He's a sales guru, and so that will be really, really interesting. Come and join us. And then after that, Mana, who's not with us today, she'll be also sharing a little bit about insurance and the importance of taking insurance, especially when you go away on holiday, making sure that you've got insurance on your car and all those things. So come and listen to that. That's the week after next. So thanks very much. Thanks to the listeners. Thanks to the co-hosts. I really appreciate it. And if you want to get hold of Wilhelm, you can see his telephone number there. Give him a ring or watch the video that's going to happen now. So thank you very much. And just thanks specifically to those who've made some comments, to Rudolph, to Carol, Dr. Carol, to Rachel. Thanks for making comments. And I'm sure Wilhelm will get back to you and comment on your comments, and thank you for that. Thank you, guys. Take care and enjoy the little video that we have for you. All right. See you next week, same time.
The secret to 10x growth isn't strategy. It is culture. Your culture will either multiply your results or magnify your stress. Smart companies have strategy, solid finances, and the right technology. But that's not enough to scale. To grow effortlessly, your culture must be healthy, low politics, high morale, aligned values, and strong teamwork. We use proven, science-based tools to measure culture, energy, and fit, so you can fix what matters and grow faster. If you know where your culture stands, you can scale with clarity, energy, and purpose. Scan the QR code and do the 3-minute company culture check now.